Welcome back, my friends, again to The Cut. We are continuing with our reaction videos.
Yes.
And now it is my turn to introduce Thom to a field that he may not be so familiar with. And I know he's not, or maybe he has a differing of opinions than me on this subject. So I decided to introduce Thom to Colion Noir. Colion Noir is a Second Amendment activist and avid gun shooter.
He's a person?
Yes, he is a person.
Sound like a fucking dish at a Louisiana restaurant.
He is actually an attorney.
Oh.
He's a licensed attorney.
Okay.
But he is also a Second Amendment activist and avid gun enthusiast. So
okay.
We are going to watch a debate with him and Bill Maher and some other people on the panel. But
Michael Pollan? Okay.
Yeah, it looks like Michael Pollan, Josh Barr. So but I think Bill and Colion are the one who kind of really engage in this topic.
Okay.
So let's get into it. Feel free to stop it when you want to stop it. Just hit that space key right there, and we'll talk about it if you want.
So already I like it.
Okay, why is that?
Already I like it because there's a diverse array of people here.
Okay.
There's a diverse array.
A diverse array as in
you got a black dude.
5 white people and 1 black guy.
Well, no, it's not just that.
Okay.
You got Bill Maher.
But you've got a woman.
You got a woman. You've got a black guy. You've got Bill Maher, who is like that libertarian type person. Okay. You've got Colion Noir, who's obviously a Republican, staunch Republican, I imagine.
I couldn't tell you what he votes. So I know what he's doing. I know what
Immediately I like it.
Okay. Near attendant, what should the Democrats be doing to attract disaffected Republicans who are fleeing the GOP? Are we catching them in the net?
You know, my view of this is that you're right, that the country is facing an existential threat right now, and we have to make alliances wherever. And so I think we should welcome them. I think we have to recognize that accountability is only going to come.
You're a Trump voter, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, see? We're friends.
Yeah, yeah.
We got to talk to each other.
I agree.
We got
I agree.
We got to share this country. We got to start talking and making inroads. We can't just go to our camps.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree.
Right.
You know, I think we have to recognize that democracy is at stake and welcome them with open arms.
Okay. Let's see. Black Knight asked Colion, is there anything that could happen that would make you say, okay, we need stricter common sense gun laws?
It's interesting because it's amazing to me how everything always goes to we need stricter gun laws in response to everything with respect to firearms. I think there needs to be a more holistic look and approach to it because if we take into account the way things were before, we have more gun laws now than we did before, but yet supposedly we're still dealing with.
Because we did get rid of the assault weapons ban. There are states that have actually deregulated gun laws over the last 10, 15 years.
So you say 20 to 30 years ago we have less gun laws or more?
You know, I'd say in the 1990s we had an assault weapons ban, and that was actually ended, and that was important. And in the South, they've passed a bunch of things to undo restrictions on guns.
Like stand your ground.
Like stand your ground.
That's not it. You know, are you for stand your ground?
Yeah, I'm for stand your ground. Why wouldn't I be? Yeah.
Well, for one reason, I mean, the statistics on black people standing their ground against white people versus the reverse does not come out well for black people.
Yeah. Now, so
yeah, absolutely.
Like only I think.
So I should forfeit my right to own.
No. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that specific law, stand your ground.
And
where
also,
if I'm scared, I get to shoot you. Is the way I interpret stand your ground, and that's really how it's.
And the police enforce it in that way.
And when it's a white person shooting a black person, that is forgiven a lot more than the reverse.
Absolutely.
So. If that is the case, right, and then that's predicated on race, right, in terms of disproportionate effect of stand your ground laws,
right,
then of course that's a criminal justice issue, right? Then yeah, something needs to be done about that. But the idea that if somebody is threatening my life, I shouldn't have to be forced to retreat to a wall before I decide to defend my life if they're threatening it, no?
Yeah, I mean, but that's just always been the law. I mean, people have loosened. Stand your ground has changed the.
So you're not inherently against the idea and the concept of stand your ground. You're just against the way it's been applied.
No, I think stand your ground is basically makes it so that it's easier to kill somebody, and I object to that.
So I just want to, before we get too far, I want to know your input on stand your ground. Or get your opinion on it.
I think stand your ground is a very was a very necessary law to implement.
Okay. So you're for it.
I'm for stand your ground. The biggest thing with stand your ground for me is that you can justify anything, dude. You can justify anything in this world if you're eloquent enough and if you have the right people in your corner, right? So think about if I killed someone right now and there was no video around, nothing, and the cops say to me, well, what happened? I felt threatened, man, so I stood my ground. He came at me, I shot him. Okay, well, we need to look into this a little bit more. If I get the right guy with me, and I have the right friends, I can speak to my character, and, hey, man, it's a white guy, he felt threatened by a minority, let's say it was a minority, and he shot him because he felt threatened, and he felt threatened for his family's sake, right? I'm probably going to get off with it, right?
Are you getting off with it because why?
I think more often than not, we talk about white privilege. I think as a white man, I'm going to be believed a little bit more in some instances, and I don't think that that's necessarily fair.
So that comes to, like he said, a criminal justice issue.
Correct. It comes to a criminal justice issue. I think, I'm not going to lie to you, being a white guy is fucking awesome. Just like I can imagine for you, being Hispanic is great. And it's not because...
Hispanic isn't a race, though. We can. That's a whole
other topic. What I'm getting at is, I don't think it's great that I'm white because I can get away. I theoretically could get away with whatever. I think it's great because of the culture that I'm part of. You know, the different ethnicities that build up who I am.
Okay.
I would never say it's great that I'm white because I can get away with whatever, right? Because that's just not how I was brought up, not how I was raised. But
and I don't agree that you can get away with whatever being white, but.
I think in most cases, white people have gotten away with quite a bit. And like George Zimmerman, George Zimmerman's theme song in life should be I'll Still Kill by 50.
But George Zimmerman isn't, he's a Hispanic.
I thought he was a white guy. I thought he was a fat white dude.
I'm 95% sure he's Hispanic.
With a last name like Zimmerman? That's fucking German, bro.
Have you seen him?
I mean, I don't...
Have you seen what he looks like?
I have. He looks like a pretty
Hispanic
tan
too.
dude, but...
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. But all I'm getting at it, man, and I don't mean to like sound like a certain type of way, but like it's just like... I do think that white people get away with a little bit more.
Okay.
And I don't think it's fair.
But as far as stand your ground, you're forced to.
Oh, I'm fucking for stand your ground, bro.
Okay.
Fuck yeah, I am.
Let's keep going. Let's see what else they have to say.
I mean, it's basically like, you know, we had a rule, which is your life has to be, the normal rule before stand your ground was that your life had to be threatened. And with stand your ground, it's like anything that you perceive as a threat. That's the problem.
That's the part.
That's the
seems
problem.
like that's a slippery slope.
Again, then that's predicated on a subjective standard, right?
But
Would that not be?
the standard is inherently subjective in a self-defense.
Well, because my understanding of stand your ground from an objective standard is I have to be, I'm not forced to have my back against the wall if my life is threatened to defend my life, right? So
I
then
don't
from
think
that,
that's a requirement of stand your ground.
I'm going on to the next question. I'm standing my ground here. Michael Pollan, do you see a future where the government sponsors care for mental health? What would it take to get there?
Well, we have a real mental health crisis in this country. One of the reasons people are interested in psychedelic medicine
That's very
now-
involved with the gun crisis. I mean, that's
Yes.
we often
Yeah.
get into
So-
that debate. Is it the guns or is it?
Well, you have
Partly
the
both.
suicide rate is up, what, 20% in the last few years. Depression is up 18% since 2005. Addiction is rampant, and mental health care in this country has very few tools. It's really broken. If you compare mental health care to any other branch of medicine, oncology, cardiology, infectious disease, they've all accomplished important things. They've reduced suffering, they've prolonged lifespan. You can't say that in mental health.
That's not true. Come on. I mean, 100 years ago, the Kennedys were lobotomizing their daughter because that's how they
That
did.
was 100 years ago. I mean, it was a long time ago.
I
But
said 100 years ago. Or,
I think he means over the last couple
I mean,
of
over
decades.
the last few decades, right? And
okay, but haven't they come up with things that I mean,
antidepressants help some
I remember
people.
even somebody like Mike Wallace talking about they didn't have antidepressants when he was.
There's
suffering
less
that
they
for
came
stigma.
in
years.
the last
There's less
eight-
stigma to mental health
No.
issues today than there were a few
They
decades
didn't,
ago.
Definitely,
They
but the
didn't
point
realize
is
you
that-
could just pour something in the test tube and make it better.
Right. Well,
It's not that easy, but they
No.
didn't have that option at all
no.
50 years ago.
But the antidepressants we have, actually, many people don't like taking them. Their effectiveness fades over time. They're very hard to get off. So
and they cause suicide.
And they cause suicide, yes. Yet, if there's a suicide blamed on LSD, that's a huge story.
Right.
But it's kind of routine.
Can
in
I
this
just
our
say that
eyes.
our problems are not a constant? I'm not a Luddite when I say this, but I think the technology has completely upended mental health in this country. And we all love Uber. We want to order a car. I'm going to go to Open Table and get a dinner reservation. But so many of our kids are now shut-ins, devoid of personal interaction, and instead creating identities that just don't match reality. That's driving a lot of this.
It's disconnection. It's really disconnection. That's at the root of depression, addiction, obsession, all
The
these
phone.
things.
It's the damn phones.
Well, this is the
People live on the
It actually
Well,
is
that's another
in some
addiction,
respects.
right?
Yeah.
That's another form of
terrible addiction.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
I don't think she agrees. I don't think she agreed with that.
I mean, we see suicide rates have increased amongst older men, rural communities, people. I mean, it's not universal.
This is the gun
rate.
problem. A majority of gun deaths in the U.S. are suicide, and,
Yes.
and the research is much clearer on gun control and gun ownership rates and suicide than with homicide. It's the crime rate effects are unclear. The suicide rate effects are very clear. If there are fewer
Right.
guns out there, people attempt suicide as much,
And they
but they don't
survive.
succeed as often because
That's absolutely not true.
that's
No, it is
that's
absolutely
absolutely
true.
true. You
Totally
see the
right.
changes
Really?
in gun ownership.
If, that were
in
the,
different
if there was a direct correlation between the number of guns that were available and suicides, we would be leading the world in suicides.
There are also cultural
We are
factors.
increasing.
We have
Suicides
different
are
cultural
increasing.
makeups.
Suicides are increasing in the U.S.
You see fewer suicides among Black and Hispanic people than among white and Asian people, independent of gun ownership. So we have demographic advantages. We should have an even bigger advantage over other advanced countries in suicide rates than we do.
And also, we do have most guns, but they're in the hands of fewer people. In other words, the people who like guns have many guns. There was a guy last week they caught with 553 guns. You have that picture of this guy's arsenal? Oh my God, this is what they found in this guy's house. Now, come on,
he
is
was a
that too
collector.
many guns?
That doesn't stress you out. That doesn't bother you
He
at
is not
all.
giving
Like
an
that
inch.
many
Well, that's-
guns.
see,
Really?
Okay, so here's the thing about that.
Not too many guns. That was a
I mean,
lot
at some
of
point,
guns.
what's one more?
I think the distinction is this. Look, we have to understand something, right? So I get it, right? You're not a gun person, right?
No, I'm actually worried about a person like that basically killing a lot of, having the ability to easily
He
kill
only-
lots
he
of
only
people
has two
with
hands.
no
He-
regulation.
That guy.
I'm sorry, what does that mean?
So I do think having 553 guns is excessive. However, he made a great point right there. Man only has two hands,
Right.
right? So at the end of the day, I might think it's excessive, but if that's what's going to keep that man feeling safe, at the end of the day, who am I to judge, right?
I mean, even if he only has two, like you said, he only has two hands, so
He's not going to tape them all together and like.
start using
Yeah,
553
like
guns
Duke
at the same
Nukem,
time.
you know what I
right? So
mean?
I'm
Like-
sure he's not counting on all 550. But you know what he probably does? He probably has a gun in maybe multiple guns in each room.
Yeah.
Let's say somebody breaks into your home, you don't have one immediately on you. You can go to the nearest fucking corner of the house and grab a gun and protect
Yes.
yourself. So I don't think that's a bad idea. So maybe 553 guns to keep himself safe, or maybe he just likes guns and likes to have a variety and likes to go
Yeah.
shoot different guns. I don't see a problem with either or.
Now, and the other thing too, man, is like she's saying it's excessive, but the bitch probably has 553 pairs of shoes, right? So what I'm getting at, I know it's not a direct comparison, but
Right.
she only got 2 feet.
Right.
She ain't gonna wear 553
600 shoes,
feet.
yeah.
But if that's what's gonna make her feel better, maybe she collects. Maybe that dude's collecting.
That's what
You know
somebody
I'm saying?
said. Yeah, that's
Like,
what somebody said.
So the thing, and the other thing, man, is I agree with what they're saying about the mental health, like, but I also agree with what he said. Like, yeah, there's a lot of deaths by gun, but not everyone that kills themselves has a gun. So I don't like that argument. Like, now for me, like, that's one reason I don't want a gun is because I know if I got into a bad space one day, it'd be easy for me to just boom. But, you know, there's other ways I could kill myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, and there's accidents and shit like that, but there's accidents with anything, man. Like, I own a fucking high performance truck. I could kill myself in my truck on accident one day. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't like this what she's getting at. Like,
where it's excessive.
It's excessive because, yeah, I do think having that many guns is excessive, but in the way that I think her having 553 pairs of shoes is excessive. Not because I think he's gonna go and arm a fucking town and fucking create the next civil war, but just because, goddamn, like, that's a lot of money. Fucking money. That's a lot of guns, money, motherfucker. Yeah. Like, you know, like, it's not, I don't think of it in a negative way.
Right.
You know what I mean?
He only has two hands. People are getting slaughtered by one person. Children are being slaughtered by one children.
You're inherently attributing a negative character to firearms. Outright, right?
Yes, because lots of people die at firearms. So that's why I do that.
That's the same. Yeah, the same could be said of cars, right? But you're not advocating banning cars or limiting people's access to vehicles.
You can't take, I mean, the number of people who are murdered by guns is much higher than the people murdered by cars.
Well, no.
The number of I don't know about that. No, it's semantics.
Murders, not deaths. Intentionally running over people.
Well, not intentionally.
Yeah. Intentional murder is intentional.
It's still horrible, though, for someone to die in a car accident versus somebody really trying to...
Can I say, this is why we're never, no disrespect to either of you, we're never going to get anywhere on this issue. The best we can hope for is a better integration of data, because I'm sick and tired of reading in the newspaper the following day, well, there was this warning sign, and this agency knew this, and this knew this,
right.
And the left hand and the right hand are just not coordinated. That we ought to be able to get done.
And I don't disagree with that at all. But also the last point I wanted to make with respect to you seeing the number of guns out there and you feeling some type of way is I look at guns differently than you do.
Yes.
And there was a point in time where I looked at it. There was a point in time where I looked at it probably the same way you did, right? I had about as an organic progression of firearm ownership as one can have. I was against guns. I didn't like them. But I went to the range one time and I shot a gun, and that changed for me. And so now I can see a myriad of reasons for why someone would own a firearm, whether it be recreation, sports, collecting, so forth and so on. So when I see those number of guns up there, my mind doesn't automatically go to, oh my God, that's horrible and that's bad.
I totally hear what you're saying. I guess what I'm saying to you is, what you're trying to do is say that progressives, liberals, whatever, want to ban guns. No one's saying ban your gun. We're saying regulate them so people with mental illness have background checks, a variety of things about certain types of guns. No one is saying you can't have a gun. And
real quick, I just want to point out what she's saying. She's saying nobody's saying to ban guns. However, I will show you videos, we'll do more reaction videos when it comes to firearms, and we'll talk about how they're actually trying to ban weapons. Yeah. And we've talked about this on the podcast before. Assault rifles, now it's assault pistols, now it's just assault weapons, like...
This is a fucking assault weapon.
It is.
I could bash you over the head with this right now, bro.
And it turns into an assault weapon.
Yeah,
you just assaulted me, and it turned into a weapon. Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, we'll talk about...
I agree with what she's saying right there, though. There should be mental health checks. There should be background checks. There should be all of that, man.
Dude, there is.
But, so... Here's my thing. If I had a documented history of suicidal tendencies, aggression, depression, I'm on all these medications.
You could not buy a gun.
If I had all that and I went into your gun store and said, hey, Anthony, I want to buy a pistol. You could not sell me a gun.
I could not sell you a gun.
You could.
There's a form you fill out. Uh-huh. Maybe we'll do that as a show one day. If this is something you'd be interested in seeing, please let us know in the comments. We can go gun shopping one day.
I would love to do that with you. Megan wants one.
We don't have to go through the entire process, but we'll go through the process all the way up to the point where you hand them a debit card and say, cash me out, boss. There's a form you have to fill out. You have to give them your driver's license. the address on the driver's license has to match the address on the form. It asks you, have you been mentally adjudicated? Like,
What if I write no, but I have?
that's why they send all your information in to the
Okay, so they actually have a
ATF.
whole ass system.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, of course, there are the process could be. There are people who slip through the cracks.
Yeah.
There are people who slip through
But
the
that's
cracks.
going to be anything.
Where like two bureaucracies aren't talking to each other
Yeah.
properly. But
Yeah.
but all the checks and balances are there. We have background checks. We have. There used to be requirements to get certain permits, like you had to, CCWs, but they got rid of that here in Ohio. So it's constitutional carry. You don't need a permit. You don't need to register your weapons. But in order to buy a weapon, you have to go through, buy a firearm, you have to go through and fill out this form. Some of the things that they talk about are the gun show loophole, and where you can go to a gun show and buy a firearm from, without a background check. They're talking about private sales, where if I wanted to sell you a gun, you obviously don't need to. I'm not going to do a background check. I don't have the capabilities of doing
Correct.
it. So essentially, what they want to do is they want to force even private sales to do background checks.
But see, I think that's smart.
I don't completely oppose that. I
I think that's smart.
But here's the thing. There's no way to enforce it.
No, there isn't.
The only way to enforce it is if we register every single firearm with the United States government.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have a tally of how many guns each person has.
Mm-hmm.
I don't agree with that. Because if for some reason they ever say, oh, you know what, we're going to ban these types of guns, Tom, it looks like you have 3 of those.
I'm coming over and I'm grabbing them.
I'm coming to get those from you. And if you refuse, you're going to jail.
Yeah, that'd be kind of dogs. See, the only weapons I could say I don't agree with someone having is an RPG. Because there's no fucking reason.
You think there's no reason.
But why would you need a rocket launcher?
Why do we have the Second Amendment to begin with?
To protect ourselves.
Against?
Tyrannical government.
And what does our government have? All
Tanks.
kind of shit. So
Yeah.
why would we not be able to have a RPG?
I just
And
think
actually, you can have an RPG.
Can you?
Yeah, you can. You gotta have tax stamps and fucking
Okay.
license and all this other shit. It's expensive and there's a lot of whole loops to jump through, but
my biggest thing with it is if someone had an RPG and they became unhinged one day, it'd be real easy for them to load that RPG up in the back of their car, and it's not a school shooter situation anymore. It's a school blowing up situation.
Okay.
Or a hospital blow up
and
situation.
imagine this. Imagine 95% of the populace is armed.
Uh-huh.
How many shots do you think he's gonna get off before he gets fucking taken out?
One.
One.
But that one could fuck a lot of shit up, dude.
It could.
One, and this
But
is
he's
awful
gotta-
to say.
All right, but what's a better deterrent? Having no RPG in a gun-free school zone where you know that nobody else is gonna have a gun, but there's a sign that says no gun, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is that gun-free zone a deterrent, or is knowing that 95% of the people in that school zone have a gun and you have an RPG? I think I would rather have the populace armed, knowing.
I would rather have the populace armed too, to be honest with you, because if something popped off and one of my neighbors has a gun, I know that at least my 2-house radius is going to be safe because Jack and fucking Sam have guns.
This is a personal story that happened today. You're kind of privy to it. So today, across the street, it was a police officer that was putting down a sick animal, discharging a firearm within the city limits. Apparently, they're
Jurisdiction
permitted
to do that.
They're permitted to do it in certain circumstances. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. All I heard was gunshots. And my son's downstairs. I'm upstairs. I hear 5 shots. As I'm coming downstairs, my son's coming upstairs. I go peek out the window, see what the fuck is going on, and what do you think I had on me?
You had your piece on you, bro.
I had 3 of them. I had I had a sidearm for me, sidearm for my wife, and I had a rifle.
Yeah. Because that's fucking smart, bro. Because if that wasn't a police officer and it was someone unhinged or, you know,
And then I would be a sitting duck in my house. If I
you
didn't.
would be if you didn't have a gun.
Exactly.
You know, so in that instance, dude, I'm not against guns. I mean, I'm just against, I guess I'm against the mental health aspect of owning a gun.
That's fair.
Because I'm just afraid that myself or someone I care about, you know, let's say one of my buddies is going